Long, long ago, a king and queen reigned over a large and powerful country. What their names were, nobody knows. But their son was called Sigurd, and their daughter Leniek, and these young people were famed throughout the whole kingdom for their wisdom and beauty. There was only a year between them, and they loved each other so much that they could do nothing apart. When they began to grow up, the king gave them a house of their own to live in, with servants and carriages and everything they could possibly want. For many years they all lived happily together, and then the queen fell ill and knew that she would never get better. "Promise me two things," she said one day to the king. "One, that if you marry again, as indeed you must, you will not choose as your wife a woman from some small state or distant island who knows nothing of the world and will be taken up with thoughts of her grandeur, but rather seek out a princess of some great kingdom who has been used to courts all her life and holds them at their true worth. The other thing I have to ask is that you will never cease to watch over our children, who will soon become your greatest joy." These were the queen's last words, and a few hours later she was dead. The king was so bowed down with sorrow that he would not attend even to the business of the kingdom, and at last his prime minister had to tell him that people were complaining that they had nobody to right their wrongs. "You must rouse yourself, sir," went on the minister, "and put aside your own sorrows for the sake of your country." "You do not spare me," answered the king, "but what you say is just, and your counsel is good. I have heard that men say likewise that it will be for the good of my kingdom for me to marry again, though my heart will never cease to be with my lost wife. But it was her wish also, therefore to you I entrust the duty of finding a lady fitted to share my throne. Only see that she comes neither from a small town nor a remote island." So an embassy was prepared, with the minister at its head, to visit the greatest courts in the world and to choose out a suitable princess. But the vessel which carried them had not been gone many days when a thick fog came on, and the captain could see neither to the right nor to the left. For a whole month the ship drifted about in darkness, till at length the fog lifted, and they beheld a cliff jutting out just in front. On one side of the cliff lay a sheltered bay, in which the vessel was soon anchored, and though they did not know where they were, at any rate they felt sure of fresh fruit and water. The minister left the rest of his followers on board the ship, and taking a small boat rowed himself to land in order to look about him and to find out if the island was really as deserted as it seemed. He had not gone far when he heard the sound of music, and turning in its direction, he saw a woman of marvelous beauty sitting on a low stool playing on a harp, while a girl beside her sang. The minister stopped and greeted the lady politely, and she replied with friendliness, asking him why he had come to such an out-of-the-way place. In answer, he told her of the object of his journey. "I am in the same state as your master," replied the lady. "I was married to a mighty king who ruled over this land till Vikings came and slew him and put all the people to death. But I managed to escape and hid myself here with my daughter." And the daughter listened and said softly to her mother, "Are you speaking the truth now?" "Remember your promise," answered the mother angrily, giving her a pinch which was unseen by the minister. "What is your name, madam?" asked he, much touched by this sad story. "Blavor," she replied, "and my daughter is called Lofa." And then she inquired the name of the minister and of the king his master. After this they talked of many things, and the lady showed herself learned in all that a woman should know, and even in much that men only were commonly taught. What a wife she would make for the king, thought the minister to himself, and before long he had begged the honor of her hand for his master. She declared at first that she was too unworthy to accept the position offered her, and that the minister would soon repent his choice. But this only made him the more eager, and in the end he gained her consent and prevailed on her to return with him at once to his own country. The minister then conducted the mother and daughter back to the ship. The anchor was raised, the sails spread, and a fair wind was behind them. Now that the fog had lifted, they could see as they looked back that, except just along the shore, the island was bare and deserted and not fit for men to live in. But about that nobody cared. They had a quick voyage, and in 6 days they reached the land, and at once set out for the capital, a messenger being sent on first by the minister to inform the king of what had happened. When his majesty's eyes fell on the 2 beautiful women clad in dresses of gold and silver, he forgot his sorrows and ordered preparations for the wedding to be made without delay. In his joy, he never remembered to inquire in what kind of country the future queen had been found. In fact, his head was so turned by the beauty of the 2 ladies that when the invitations were sent by his orders to all the great people in the kingdom, he did not even recollect his 2 children who remained shut up in their own house. After the marriage, the king ceased to have any will of his own and did nothing without consulting his wife. She was present at all his councils, and her opinion was asked before making peace or war. But when a few months had passed, the king began to have doubts as to whether the minister's choice had really been a wise one, and he noticed that his children lived more and more in their palace and never came near their stepmother. It always happens that if a person's eyes are once opened, they see a great deal more than they ever expected, and soon it struck the king that the members of his court had a way of disappearing one after another without any reason. At first he had not paid much attention to the fact, but merely appointed some fresh person to the vacant place. As, however, man after man vanished without leaving any trace, he began to grow uncomfortable and to wonder if the queen could have anything to do with it. Things were in this state when, one day, his wife said to him that it was time for him to make a progress through his kingdom and see that his governors were not cheating him of the money that was his due. "And you need not be anxious about going," she added, "for I will rule the country while you are away as carefully as you could yourself." The king had no great desire to undertake this journey, but the queen's will was stronger than his, and he was too lazy to make a fight for it. So he said nothing, and set about his preparations, ordering his finest ship to be ready to carry him round the coast. Still, his heart was heavy, and he felt uneasy, though he could not have told why. And the night before he was to start, he went to the children's palace to take leave of his son and daughter. He had not seen them for some time, and they gave him a warm welcome, for they loved him dearly, and he had always been kind to them. They had much to tell him, but after a while he checked their merry talk and said, "If I should never come back from this journey, I fear that it may not be safe for you to stay here. So directly there are no more hopes of my return, go instantly, and take the road eastwards till you reach a high mountain which you must cross. Once over the mountain, keep along by the side of a little bay till you come to 2 trees, one green and the other red, standing in a thicket, and so far back from the road that without looking for them you would never see them. Hide each in the trunk of one of the trees, and there you will be safe from all your enemies." With these words, the king bade them farewell and entered sadly into his ship. For a few days the wind was fair, and everything seemed to be going smoothly. Then, suddenly, a gale sprang up, and a fearful storm of thunder and lightning, such as had never happened within the memory of man. In spite of the efforts of the frightened sailors, the vessel was driven on the rocks, and not a man on board was saved. That very night, Prince Sigurd had a dream in which he thought his father appeared to him in dripping clothes, and taking the crown from his head, laid it at his son's feet, leaving the room as silently as he had entered it.